Doctor Who's had its new episode premiere tonight, and is traditional with this channel, I'm going to give some very quick off-the-cuff opinions about it. First and foremost though, I just want to say I hate the fact that they've premiered the new series today. I know that they are now changing the specials to be on New Year's Day instead of Christmas, which, you know, that's fine. But I don't like the fact that they've started the new series today. Nothing really anything against any creative decision, it's just that I've just finished my year-end review video, and now I've got to do another video straight after it, and when this is just a hobby, it gets irritating, but whatever. I have to roll with the punches sometimes, so let's get into it. So in terms of characters, we've basically got the same as we had the last series. We've got the Doctor, played again by Jodie Whittaker, and she does a good job again. I can see where they're trying to make her a little bit more sort of a little bit more ditzy-brained. At least that's how it came across to me, which I'm not entirely sure if it works. I like Whittaker's Doctor. As anyone who watched my ranking of the Doctors last year knows that she's definitely not one of my favourites, but I do enjoy her, and she's a bit different in terms of performance as previous Doctors, but I don't know, it's not quite for me, especially since I've met a lot of people that she reminds me a lot of, and that's all I think of when I see her performance. But she's doing a good job with what she's given, and she is enjoyable to watch, so that's all I can say there, really. We've got Mandip Gill and Toyson Cole back as Ryan and Yasmin as well. They're doing pretty good. They have a little bit more character, at least a tiny bit more than they did the previous season. They're sort of exploring more in terms of the range of emotions that they can play with the characters. They've not necessarily been giving a little bit more character traits, but you can see a bit more personality in their performance, which is good because it kind of feels like their characters, particularly Yasmin, didn't have a lot to work with in the last series, so it's good to see that they're giving them more to work with. And of course we have Bradley Walters Graham, who is fantastic as he was in the last series. I think he may actually be my now favourite companion of all of them, not just of the group we have at the moment, but in general in the Doctor Who universe, which that is quite a skill to achieve, to be honest, because Rory was already well on my list as my favourite companion, but to have him be knocked off by Graham, that's impressive, for me anyway. So yeah, he's always a treat to see, and to be honest, I think I like him even more than the Doctor in this series, but they do actually have quite a good chemistry as sort of the, in a way you could kind of consider them like the mother and father of the kind of family that they have, but either way, they are a lot of fun to watch, particularly Bradley Walsh in general. In terms of who's new to the cast, we have Stephen Fry, who's playing C, the head of MI6, although he only appears in it for 5 minutes and then abruptly disappears, so I don't know if we'll be seeing him again, but I hope we do, because it's always great to see Stephen Fry in anything. Although his joke about, oh, I've read the documents, I know the Doctor is a man, that was kind of funny, but I think they were a little bit on the nose with that one. If they played it a bit more subtly, I think it would have worked much better. But it's still actually a nice joke, but it still feels a bit late to still be doing that whole, oh, we're surprised the Doctor's a woman now joke, so who knows, but it was a decent line. And there's Lenny Henry, who plays the villain in this episode, who is surprisingly really intimidating. I never would have expected that out of him, because I really like Lenny Henry as a comedian. I've not really seen much of him as an actor, but as a comedian he is genuinely hilarious. But yeah, he does a really good job as the villain in this episode, because he just has that feel of a guy you do not want to mess with, and that is quite an achievement for a guy who's made his living making people laugh. So congratulations there, Lenny, you did a really good job. And then we have Sacha Dhawan, who, I apologise if I'm pronouncing his name wrong there, but he plays a retired secret agent recluse named O, and he actually, I thought, was quite good, at least for the majority of the episode where we know him. I thought he was actually quite a nice little background character for the most part, because he doesn't really stand out as much. Unfortunately, I can't talk much about him because that would be giving away major spoilers, and I prefer to avoid these in these sorts of videos, because I know that a lot of people don't like to watch Doctor Who when it premieres. They like to wait until it's come out just because it fits their schedule, or they want to see what opinions have come out and then gauge that with their own when it comes out. Whatever. I don't want to give away spoilers, so I can't talk much about his character now. So maybe when I do the series retrospective, when the series comes to an end, then I'll say what I thought about him in the episode in general. As for the plot of this episode, you can probably guess by the title of Spyfall that it's a takeoff of espionage films, particularly the James Bond series, which that's not the only time Doctor Who has done this. They've done that as far back as pretty much the third Doctor's run, but it's always nice to see because they do have a strange kind of relationship between each other in a kind of non-direct way, and it was okay. I'm not a big fan of when Doctor Who does espionage because I don't think it always works out well, but like I said, the third Doctor run had a lot of espionage stuff in it, and that's my favourite of the classic Doctor Who series runs, really, so it could have worked there, and it did, but then there are other times when it hasn't worked particularly well, because the 10th Doctor tried it sometimes, and the 12th Doctor tried it sometimes, both to varying degrees of success. This one, it kind of worked. It did do a lot of stuff that you would typically see in espionage and heist movies, and it was actually quite interesting, but it did seem a kind of, well, we've sort of seen this thing before. You're not really adding much new to it beyond the fact that it's Doctor Who. Obviously, there are some new elements added with, obviously, the way they have to combat the villains, which are very, very mysterious and very, very powerful in terms of Doctor Who, and of course some revelations that are made near the end of the episode mixes things up as well. Overall, the episode does have some enjoyable moments, the characters are still good, and the production quality is still really top-notch, but I don't know, there's just something about this that I'm not quite feeling it. There's just something that feels like it's going past me in terms of, you know, trying to grab me as a Doctor Who audience member. I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just, it feels like they're doing something that's very different, that's not been done in Doctor Who before, and I don't necessarily would say I'm disagreeing with it, but it doesn't quite grab me as much. Like I've said, I love the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who, at least the Matt Smith part of it. Capaldi's era had some good moments, but it also had some bad moments. But that particular era I love just because of the way it had such a grandiose, fantastical theme to it. And this one feels like it's going to be a bit more of a middle ground between that and the more sort of gritty, almost soap opera-esque style of the David Tennant and Christopher Eccleston era, which that had also some good moments to it as well, but I feel like they were adding elements that weren't really needed or even wanted in Doctor Who with that one, but they did their best with it, and I think it came out okay. So, like I said, it's still kind of early on in the series' lifespan, so there's still a lot of growing to do, and this is only the first episode, so it's hard to judge really what the series is going to be like just from this alone, because we've got a lot to see, especially with Doctor Who, with its not exactly as much serialized running method with its episodes, so it's going to be a lot different even in just the next episode alone, so we'll have to see where it goes. But I've enjoyed it so far, and I look forward to seeing what's coming. And so, with that, I bid you farewell.